Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Ravens Call. I'm your host, Tyler Cameron. If you haven't already, or if you don't know what this podcast will consist of, go to my 1-minute intro video explaining the podcast. Or if you want to, you can just follow along week by week. If you want to start at a later date, those should be in the title for the episode. These episodes will be available on Spotify, YouTube, as well as Apple Podcasts. You can find all the links to those in each of the streaming services, or look up the Ravens Call podcast on Instagram. On that note, hope everyone is having a great Wednesday and ready to listen to some exciting NFL and Baltimore Ravens news. All right. So we're at the point right now, we're mid-season. Got done with week 9 already, and right now they're going through some trades right now, so we'll talk about those from a Ravens perspective once towards the end of this video when I go through week 10 predictions and such. But for right now, let's get into week 9. All right, first game on the docket was a Thursday night game on Halloween. Texans did not look good. Texans, Strouds, I'm going to interchange them. Sorry. Texans did not look good. I mean, the offensive line is terrible for the Texans. They have been for a couple weeks now. I mean, Stroud was sacked 8 times in the game. He also was not being able to throw that well because he did not have Diggs or Collins, and that really affected him because threw for 30 times and only completed 11. Not the best percentage. Joe Mixon has been pretty much their only bright spot for Houston is the rushing game, which 24 carries, 106 yards and a touchdown. Tank Dell had a great performance, but without Collins or Diggs, they're not in the best position, and their defense can't hold up for very long. Jets, this was more of a must-win game for them. They really needed to get this win to get a bounce back in their division and in the conference itself, because there are a lot of ways that this could have affected their season and going into next season. Because going into this season, this team was supposed to be a Super Bowl contending team, and they have not looked like it at all through the entire season so far. But this was a good game for them. Rodgers had a good game, 22 of 32, 211 yards and 3 touchdowns, only sacked twice, which was good. Breece Hall had a decent running game, but it was more balanced in their passing game with Adams and Wilson. Being as though Adams, 7 receptions, 91 yards and a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 9 receptions, 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. And maybe the catch of the year. Shout out to Odell Beckham. That catch was as equal, if not better, than Odell Beckham's catch when he was on the Giants back in the day. It was an amazing catch. Jets have a lot of work to do when it comes to regaining their record and really being able to push to get into the playoffs. Houston is top of their division. They're kind of coasting with, even with this loss, a 2-game lead on their division, but they really want to show that they are an elite team, that they can go deep into the playoffs. And without Diggs, and maybe with Collins coming back, they'll have a shot, but without Diggs, it really looks like they don't really have the best of chance. But we'll see. Score was 13-21. It looks like going into the third quarter that the Jets were going to take over, and they did. Preview into the game we're going to talk about a little later. But let's go on to it was supposed to be somewhat of a game of the week. It didn't turn out that way. So Cowboys lose again to the Falcons, which I'm not really too shocked about that. The Cowboys have not looked the best. Dak Prescott was able to run a little bit, but he actually ended up getting injured with a hamstring injury. He was not able to return, which really affected the rest of the game. Dak went 18 of 24, 133 yards and a touchdown. He did okay when he was there, but he got injured and it all kind of went downhill. Thankfully, they had Cooper Rush come in, 13 of 25 and a touchdown, but this game was kind of, it already seemed over a while ago. As soon as Dak went out, all the hearts were lost for them. Jake Ferguson had another good game, so did CeeDee Lamb, but They don't look like themselves, and I think the Cowboys are not going to be in a good position to be in the playoffs this year. On the other hand, the Falcons, they're looking good. They're 6-3. A lot of their division has already been kind of eliminated, being the Panthers and the Saints, really. They don't look very well. Tampa Bay, which we'll talk about later, lost to Kansas City. But this is the team that has everyone. They're the healthiest of the teams because this division has a lot of injuries when it comes to Tampa Bay, when it comes to the Saints. And Carolina is just terrible in and of itself. So I think they're trading away a lot of their players right now. We'll have to see on that. Kirk Cousins had another great game, 19-24 with 3 touchdowns. Bijan Robinson, another great running game and pass game, 19 carries, 86 yards. He's able to catch 7 receptions for 59 yards. Drake London actually went out and didn't return. Kyle Pitts not showing up. Darnell Mooney has been showing up a lot for them recently. So they have a three-headed monster when it comes to the running back, the wide receiver, and tight end position to some extent. Not the best game from either team. Definitely not from the Cowboys, and the Cowboys are looking to bounce back because, the Commanders are leading and kind of coasting through the division. The Eagles are up top there too, to where Cowboys maybe barely could hang on to a wild card spot, but they'd have to win out pretty much the rest of the season. So then we go on to another great game, the Bills and the Dolphins. Tua had a great game, 25, 28, 231, and 2 touchdowns. Really good game from him. They're just not able to convert like they used to. Achane had a decent running game, so did Mostert. Achane was really good in the pass game. Then you got Tyreek Hill. Waddle played terribly, but that's nothing new to fantasy owners. They just couldn't really convert touchdowns in the first 3 quarters, and then they finally got in the fourth quarter, but it was already too late. The Bills are 7-2, but they look like a very tough team to beat. Josh Allen, 25-39, 235, 3 touchdowns and a pick. That pick I kind of blamed more on Coleman. It went in and out of his hands and went straight to Ramsey. It was a perfect throw by Allen, so I don't discredit him. He's thrown 2 picks all season, and this guy was known for his picks, so he's definitely, him and Lamar Jackson, I think, are the 2 MVPs. Anyone want to debate that, they can. Goff could be in consideration, and maybe Daniels, but Daniels hasn't been playing his best as of late. And Goff's pretty good just based on completion percentage, but as of league stats and league leaders, it's Allen and Lamar Jackson. James Cook, it wasn't really much of a running game for them. Ray Davis came in and had a big 63-yard touchdown catch. It was amazing to see. But this team's looking good. Even with Amari Cooper out, they were able to pass the ball effectively. They get it to a lot of different receivers. So I'm excited to see what Josh Allen does and going forward. But this is a close game. Towards the end, Miami started to click. But Bills were able to win it on a 61-yard field goal. And Bass had missed an extra point. It had been a rough game. Did he miss an extra point? Yes, he did. He missed an extra point. He's having a rough go of late, but he was able to bounce back, kick a 61-yarder to win. So that was a huge game for the Bills. Miami, with Tua coming back, are hoping to kind of put a run together as well because they are in the same boat as the Jets. They need to get going. And the tough part is the Dolphins have to play the Bills one more time. They have to play the Jets. It's going to be a very tough game. One of these teams are not going to make the playoffs. So we'll have to just see who that is. I'm hoping neither if I'm a Ravens because I'd love for someone else to get in there. Quickly, I'll go over this one. Garner's for the Raiders. Gardner Minshew sucks. Ritter sucks. Team sucks. Brock Bowers and Myers are the only good things about this team. There you go. Bengals played Bengals have played well. I mean, they were able to score at will. That's not new. That's not new for the Bengals. They could score at will. It's the defense, and the defense was able to give up 24 points to the Raiders. So we'll have to see. Joe Burrow had another great game for him. Did throw a pick, but he threw 5 touchdown passes, so kind of cancels out. It's going to be a very interesting next week for the Bengals as well as my Ravens team. Another great game here for the Chargers. They're 5-3, but they really haven't been playing very well. I don't know what it is. They're just kind of sluggish. Their defense is playing good, but not really their offense. Herbert passed well. J.K. Dobbins ran well, and this was kind of a mediocre game. Winston went back into form with the 3 interceptions. Nick Chubb is trying to get the run game, but their offensive line isn't as good as it used to be. Tillman played well. Judy finally showed up. Shocking. But yeah, other than that, these 2 games were kind of. I don't really talk too much about these 2 kinds of games because when you're playing the Raiders or you're playing the Browns, there's not much shock factor. It's not like a back and forth. It's more whoever doesn't make mistakes wins the game. And the Raiders and Browns are known for making mistakes. We lost to both those teams, which is kind of funny that, but that's what happens. You beat yourself, and that's what the Ravens did, is they beat themselves up. This was a very good game. This one came into overtime. I would say that this and the Saints game were probably the biggest, action fest and the closest games to watch. Drake May had a pretty good game. He threw 2 picks. I mean, he's still very young, still learning it out, but he was able to really help this team get a bounce back. And, I mean, he helps in the run game, 8 carries, 95 yards. It's really good. Stevenson did not have a good run game, but he was able to be effective in the pass game. Rudolph played really well. Tony Pollard's their bright spot, 28 carries, 126 yards. But yeah, there's not much to this game. It was very back and forth, slow game, and Tennessee was able to pull out the win. Good for them. Both teams are probably 2-7. I'm just going to say the Titans are 2-7. They're probably going to end up being 2-7 next week. But Washington and the Giants. Jayden Daniels had a pretty decent game, 15-22, 209, and 2 touchdowns. Didn't run the ball as much as normal, but they were able to pass and just kind of they started taking their foot off the gas pedal after the second quarter because the game was pretty much over at that point. Daniel Jones had a pretty decent game and only was sacked twice, so that's pretty interesting. Was able to run the ball pretty effectively too, so very shocking. Tracy Jr., I think that he needs to be the starting running back because he's been able to carry and run the ball at will. Neighbors, I feel sorry for you. I'd love to see you on the Ravens because I think that you'd be deadly, but we're kind of stacked up in the wide receiver spot right now. So, but good game all in all. Washington was able to kind of, I guess, squeak out a win, 27-22. Now the upset of the week. Yes, the upset of the week was the Panthers beating the Saints. Now this shows here that the Saints are one of those poser teams. Like we said at the start, right? When the Seahawks and the Steelers and the Saints were all undefeated, the Saints could have been a good team. They're a very good threat. They had a decent defense. They had all their players healthy, but they have not been able to keep people healthy. Derek Carr threw a hospital pass to Chris Olave, and granted, he shouldn't have gotten hit in the head, but the defender kind of leaned more into it to where Chris Olave was out. Once Olave's out, their offense is nothing. It's Kamara or nothing. And so the Saints, I mean, they were coasting through this game, and then they let Carolina come back. It was amazing to see Bryce Young do semi-well. It makes it feel like, he just has to learn a little more. But Derek Carr, 18-31, 236 and touchdown. Kamara was their shining spot. 29 carries, 155 yards. 6 receptions, 60 yards, and that's about it. Kamara was their offense. That was it. If Kamara didn't do anything, they wouldn't have gone anywhere. So Bryce Young did pretty well. Chuba Hubbard's their bright spot in the run game. I think they're getting back Jonathan Brooks. So Hubbard and Brooks are going to split the backfield a little more. They were able to get some good receiving play there. But yeah, this game came down to the wire. The Saints had a chance in the end. And they just squandered it. So ups of the week, both teams are 2-7. Both teams are trading like will right now because I mean their seasons are done, in my opinion. On to another great game, which it shouldn't have been. Trevor Lawrence, like always, threw 2 picks. Etienne and Bigsby weren't able to run the ball. I mean, if you look at their stats, I mean, they barely had 200 yards. And they put up 23 points. That's amazing. It shows that the Eagles defense really needs help because they're not playing as effectively as they used to. Jalen Hurts had a decent game, 18-24, 2 touchdowns. Saquon Barkley just does damage. He had probably, I don't know how to say it right. I mean, it's kind of the play of the year. He spun off a defender, and instead of hurdling them where it was a backwards hurdle. And you don't normally do that. That's a video game type move where your AI player just does something random that's not supposed to happen. But Saquon Barkley was able to do that, and it was amazing. I think the Eagles right now, they rely heavily on Barkley because he had second most receptions, yardage. He was able to run the ball effectively. And that's just kind of how it goes. Like, if they can run the ball effectively, they can go well and throw the deep ball. I think the Eagles won 28-23. There's a lot of problems on defense, but for the Eagles, they're a 6-2 team. But when they start playing teams that are actually good and actually have their shit together, they're going to start cracking. But that's my opinion. I don't know too much on that. Now on to the afternoon games. This was a blowout, in my opinion. I think there's a lot of problems with the Bears locker room at this moment too. There was a play, I think it was in the second quarter, where DJ Moore actually walked off the field as the play was going mid-play because he was so done. And I mean, I get it. Caleb Williams, he threw 41 times, 22 completions, 217 yards, but he was sacked 6 times. They weren't able to run the ball effectively. They were able to somewhat pass it, but a lot of mistakes by Caleb Williams. Only able to put up 9 points against a defense that's not that good. But the Arizona Cardinals are actually in first place in their division right now. They played well. They've been looking very good offensively, even though the passing's not showing it. They're able to do it in the run game with T. Mercado and James Conner. So it's really good to see that they have that kind of dual threat on that. But, I mean, this game, the Bears looked terrible. I mean, they were, a 4-2 team? And everyone's like, it is the best division. It was the best division, but the Bears, they have to face good teams. They have to face teams that are all around good, and when they do, they lose. And that's what happened here. And it wasn't even close. They only got field goals. Nothing really happened for them. On to the game of the week, which was the 6-1 versus the 6-2 Packers. Now, Jared Goff, 18-22, 145 yards and touchdown. That's kind of why he's not MVP. Because he's not having the yardage, because he's not having to do a lot. And that's kind of why his value isn't up as MVP because he's not as valuable. And I'm not saying that he's not a valuable player. I think he's top 3 in MVP voting, but he's not the most valuable player on his team. That's why Brock Purdy wouldn't get it, because he's got CMC, Debo, Ayuk, Kittle. And with Detroit, you have Sonic and Knuckles being David Montgomery and Gibbs. You got St. Brown, Laporta, Tim Patrick. Now, like, everyone's clicking, but their run game has been their predominant force on that. So, but they were able to run the ball effectively for this game. They were able to get out with an early lead, and Jordan Love just doesn't look like himself right now. He was dealing with a leg injury still, and he was throwing the ball effectively, but not to the point where people felt confident in the win. They were able to score in the end, but it didn't really do much. Detroit's defense had done well, but mainly it was just because he didn't look the best. They weren't able to convert on a lot of stuff towards the end. But it was a good win for Detroit. Packers are 6-3, but the Packers are still one of the top teams in the NFC. And Detroit is looking like the best team in the NFC. Actually, I mean, best team record-wise and play-wise in the NFL right now. Despite the Chiefs being 8-0, which, I mean, they've been playing crippled teams, so. Rams and Seahawks, this came down to the wire. Stafford played well, 25-44, 298, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Kyren Williams was able to run the ball decently, but was more subdued. Cooper Kupp, 11 receptions, 104 yards. And Puka Nacua, 1 reception, 11 yards. The other reason I bring up Puka Nacua is he actually was ejected from this game from throwing a punch in the first quarter. The Rams looked good. I mean, the Seahawks looked really good in the first half, but then comes Geno Smith. He had a good game yardage-wise and completion-wise, but 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 7 sacks. That was detrimental to the team. Walker, 25 carries, 83 yards, pretty good. They were able to get, and Jigba just went off. 7 receptions, 180 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was a beast. They did this without DK Metcalf, which was very tough for them. This was a game that was a must-win for both teams because they're right now fighting for that first spot and a wildcard spot. And so Seahawks have, gone from a 3-0 team to a 4-5 team. They really need DK back. They really need to evaluate and continue going forward because if they want to be in the playoffs, they need to win those type of games, those division games. But Rams played really well. Their passing game starting to look really good. So if you have a Rams offensive player, I'd keep him. Now on to the Sunday night game. To me, this wasn't really close. I don't know why. It was kind of a poor fest. Sam Darnold, 290, 3 touchdowns and 2 picks, 4 sacks. Just he wasn't really there. Flacco wasn't really there either. Taylor and Jones didn't really run the ball effectively. There just wasn't much in this game from the Colts. They didn't even score an offensive touchdown in the game. I think it was an interception return for a touchdown, I believe. Justin Jefferson was able to go off like normal. That's not shocking. But other than that, it was not the best game for either team. The Vikings should have pulled off the win, but they just don't look like themselves as of recently. So we'll see how they do going forward. On to Monday night game. Not really going to talk. I mean, Mahomes had his best game. 34-44, 291, 3 touchdowns against a depleted defense, against no Mike Evans, no Chris Godwin, and they were able to give up 24 points. It actually took them till overtime to actually beat Tampa Bay, which in the overtime portion of the game, there was a false start that would have cost Kansas City some points. But that's kind of what happens. Travis Kelce and D Hop are starting to click a little more, so this team's starting to get it a little more, but they haven't really had much of a challenge. A lot of the teams they're playing are already crippled going into the game, but again, they're 8-0 for a reason. They're a playoff caliber team. They show up in the playoffs, so we'll have to see. But good job by Baker Mayfield, hanging in there with not as many people. The run game wasn't doing really well and was able to get 24 points and put it into overtime. And that was amazing. They just weren't able to get the ball, and Kansas City was able to finish the job. All right, on to the team that you're all here for. The team you know and love, the Baltimore Ravens. All right, so score is 10-41. We won. Our offense is clicking. Our defense is still pedestrian, in my opinion. We were not able to get to Bo Nix. We sacked him 4 times, but it just didn't feel like we were able to give him a lot of pressure. And this is coming from a team that was very sack-driven start of the season, very sack-driven last year as well. I don't know. I just feel unsure about our defense going forward. Our offense, I don't feel anything like that at all. But let's talk about Denver. I love Denver. I hope this game is a bounce back game for their defense as well as their offense, to where they're able to bounce back against the next team they face. Because they're 5-4. They've beaten some good teams, I'd say. Some good teams to get some wins. They beat the Jets. And I know that they only won 10-7 or 10-9, something like that. But again, the Jets are a stacked team, and they lost. So, and Denver's not supposed to be even close to a playoff team. So I'm very excited to see what they'll do. But Bo Nix had a pretty good game passing. That one pick was more on the tight end. Javonte Williams, the run game wasn't really the best. Bo Nix was more able to scramble and get out of there. Sutton had another great game, but other than that, it was just Sutton. Now on to kind of the Ravens. Lamar Jackson, 16 of 19, 280, and 3 touchdowns. He was only sacked 1 time at the start of the game, and from there he just killed it. Derrick Henry had another monster running game, 23 carries, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Our offenses looked well, and we did have a trade before this game that helped us in our receiving core, which was Deontay Johnson from Carolina. Welcome to the team. Very excited to have him. I think he's just going to bolster the roster with Aguilar, Flowers, and Bateman. It doesn't look like Bateman had a lot to do this game. Mark Andrews, Derrick Henry, there wasn't a lot because we didn't really have to do much. In all honesty, it was little short passes here and there, but we were able to march down the field at will a lot of the times. But Zay Flowers really had a lot of great plays. We were able to just kind of play the first down game. That's what we do. Our defense does need to get a little better, but that's what we're working on. That's what we're trying to improve. We actually did just get a trade for our cornerback, which maybe will help us, but really wish we would have gotten maybe an edge rusher or safety help, but we'll see how that goes. But Lamar Jackson's looking like MVP. Derrick Henry could be considered MVP. So, very excited to see what happens from here for our team. Justin Tucker is still doing what he's doing. I'm just very excited. We're 6-3. We're 3-1 at home. Now we got to go. We actually have a Thursday night game against Cincinnati at home. So that'll be a crucial game for us as well as it is for them. Because if we can win and go 7-3, we can continue to stay up top. And then we can also push the Bengals in an even tougher position to win the division. To be a part of the playoffs. That is it for the Ravens that I'll talk about. There's not much. It was a blowout win. I was not expecting it to be like this, but I never expect what the Ravens are going to do at all. But let us go on to the preview of Week 10. Now, like I talked about before, we have the Bengals and the Ravens Thursday night game. They are cooking with Thursday night games, let me tell you. I do think my team's going to pull out the win. I think 6 on the spread is a lot because it's a division game. Like, it should be like 3 or 2 points. Like, it comes down to the wire every time we play a division game. It's just kind of how it goes. But I do think my team will pull off a win. I hope we make a statement, showing that our defense is improving and our offense is still the best in the league. Chiefs and Broncos. Chiefs are favored by 8. I do think that the Broncos are going to make this a lot closer. The Chiefs might win, but I do think that the Broncos are a sneaky good team. Their defense is probably one of the best. And they deserve a lot of credit. So I might pick the Denver Broncos as an upset, in my opinion. Oh, the Germany game. Giants and Panthers. Who's ever going to this game, have fun. You're going to see a lot of just boredom. I'm going to go Giants because their defense is a lot better, but I wouldn't pay to watch this game. They would have to pay me to watch this game. Patriots and the Bears. I think the Bears are going to win. I mean, their defense is really good. They'll be able to run the ball and pass a little bit, but the Patriots aren't a good team this year. They'll improve over time, but I think we'll have to see what goes on from there. Bills and Colts. Bills are going to kill the Colts. I know the Colts have a good defense, but the Bills are 7-2 for a reason. Falcons and Saints. Falcons are going to win. It's not really shocking. 49ers and Bucks. This will be a lot closer of a game. I do think that the 49ers will be able to pull this out a little better, but I don't know on that. Game of the week for the morning games. I'll just say that because I haven't looked at anything else. I'm hoping the Commanders can beat the Steelers, but I don't know. I'm not going to put all my eggs in the Commanders basket because, the Steelers are 6-2 for a reason because of their defense. If you can beat the defense, you'll win because their offense is nothing crazy. They just bolstered their defense and got a wide receiver, so they may be a little better here and there, but it's going to be tough for the Commanders to pull out this win, but they're 4-0 at home. They've been playing really good so far, so we'll see. Vikings and Jaguars. Vikings. Chargers and Titans. Chargers should win that one. Eagles and Cowboys. This would be a lot closer, but Dak is out, so I'm going to go Eagles. Jets and Cardinals. This is a tough one because the Jets are still, they need to win pretty much every game out. But the Cardinals are top of their division, and they need to continue to win. So I'm going to favor the Cardinals because of just how they've been playing. Ooh, Sunday night, that's the game of the week right there. Lions and Titans. Texans, sorry, the Strouds. I do think the Lions are going to win. The Lions are the best team in the NFL right now. The Texans do have a lot of problems on the offensive line, and the Lions have bolstered their pass rush, so we'll just have to see how that goes. But I think Nico Collins will be back to this game, so we never know. Monday night game, the Rams and the Dolphins. I think that the Rams are going to win. Rams do have a good offensive line. They're able to run the ball and pass the ball. Dolphins are still trying to click, but we'll have to see. Maybe Tyreek Hill shows up this game. Who knows? By teams, we got the Browns, Packers, Raiders, and Seahawks. Really good for the Packers. Get Jordan Love rested. The rest of the teams, Seahawks have a lot of work to do. Browns and Raiders are just trying to sell their teams at this point. But yeah, so today, as I'm recording this, they had some deals being made, a lot of trades because the trade deadline. The Steelers got Mike Williams from the Jets, a wide receiver, so that'll help the Steelers. Zaire Smith went to the Lions, of course. We really wanted him on the Ravens. That would have been nice homecoming for him. Preston Smith, a pass rusher for the Steelers. I don't know why the Steelers need more pass rushers. They already got a lot, but we'll see. But the Ravens were able to get Tre'Davious White, another cornerback that really helped them. Marshawn Lattimore for the Commanders, so that'll help the Commanders against the Steelers. So it's gonna be very good to see what happens there. Let's go to some standings really quick and see how we're doing. So playoff wise, I mean, a lot of teams can still get in it. I mean, Broncos are 5-4 right now. So a lot of teams can still come back and get in there. This one's kind of a little more separated. A lot of good teams playing up here. Let's see there. Let's check some season leader stats. So we got Geno Smith, Baker, Lamar, Kirk Cousins, and Joe Burrow. So as you can see, Lamar Jackson is a front runner for MVP when it comes to quarterbacks. He barely beats out Josh Allen, but Josh Allen should be up there too. Derrick Henry is the first 1,000-yard rusher. He got it halfway through the season. So if he could maintain the pace he's on right now, he will be a 2,000-yard rusher. I don't think that he will get it because we may maintain him. I think that a lot of people are going to force us to not focus on the rush, but you never know. Saquon, about 125 yards below him. But yeah, it's Derrick Henry and Saquon. I think Offensive Player of the Year is going to be Derrick Henry. Just hoping that he stays healthy, and we're good on that. Jay Jets, leading receiver with Jamar Chase. Garrett Wilson's starting to bounce back. CeeDee Lamb's still up there. And then Zay Flowers pops in at the number 5 spot. This really hasn't changed. Joseph from Detroit got up there. Marlon Humphreys is still at 4. Sack leaders at Cincinnati now. So that'll be interesting to see. And some changes up here. Budda Baker, a safety. Safety is now at the top of the leaders here. So there was a lot of teams that are still in the hunt. Still a lot of teams that really need to work on stuff, but we'll see what goes from there. As the clock winds down, another riveting episode. I want to thank you guys all for listening. Again, my schedule, every Wednesday at 12, I'm going to have the episode out for you. I'm going to post something on my Instagram page. And I'm going to make sure to let you know that the episode's up. Remember, my podcast is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe, whatever platform you prefer. Feel free to comment or ask a question, or if you want me to talk about specific teams, whatever, I can go more in depth with those. But I can address those either in the comments or I can address them in my next video. Also, all music and sound is provided by my brother-in-law, Justin. So, Justin, thank you for that. Well, Ravens Nation, thanks for joining me on this episode. Until next time, stay fierce, stay loyal, and keep rooting for that purple and black. I will see you next time on The Ravens Call.